Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is all about the MPC Authentic Darth Vader TIE Fighter. Now this is a vintage kit that's being re-released for 2022 with a lot of nice new improvements for this newest boxing. Better parts for the top and the bottom of the canopy, a much better Darth Vader figure, and a handful of other small parts that have just been updated for better accuracy. So let's start at the beginning of this build with the new and improved Darth Vader. All right, so here we have Darth Vader. This is a new figure, a new molding for the cockpit of the TIE Fighter. And Darth Vader is a bit of a problem because if you paint him, you just paint him black. And in the movies, that's not a problem because the costume is made of different materials. They have different shine. You see the weight. You see some things move. Some things are solid. With paint, this is all one material. And if you just paint it with black, it's not going to look good. So we're going to do a few things to cheat. We're going to exaggerate a lot of the color differences between different parts, making some more black than the others to hopefully make this a better figure than it would be if we just airbrushed it all black. Okay, here's my first cheat. I have glued a length of sprue to the very bottom of Darth Vader's foot. This will let me hold it easily, airbrush the entire thing, and keep it safe while it's drying. And then at the very end, I'll clip that off again and just sand the bottom of his foot. No one will ever know. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do him all in silver just to get rid of the blue hue, which will be underneath my other paints. In addition to the silver, I have painted the lenses on his eyes red. We know in the first film they would have a red sheen to them. And it's time for our first black, which will actually be smoke. Right, now for his armor, his helmet, his pauldrons, his glaives, we're going to do a very black gloss paint. All right, I did one more round of smoke just to blend it together, darken things up a little bit. Now I'm going to do a little bit of clear flat, just to take down a little bit of the gloss. Well, I think that worked out a little better than I thought it might. That is a good looking Darth Vader. The mold is wonderful, lots of detail in it. And we were able to exaggerate the differences between the different materials to really give it some good definition. And remember, this is going to be in the cockpit of the ship, so you won't really see it that closely. But I think that is a pretty good looking Darth Vader. After Darth Vader's been painted, I worked on the cockpit. And I went with some high contrast color choices. I figured it would be hard to see in here once it's all closed up, so I made some things darker than they should be and some things lighter. And on this part of the build, we're really going to start to see a little bit of the age of the kit. So if we kind of look over here, you can see there's a lot of flash, a lot of space that's going to need to be cleaned up there. This side was a little bit better, but you can still really make out a lot of flash, so you have to take an X-Acto to that. And I'm going to clean that up, put in the inserts, and then we're going to see what the fit is actually like between the two halves. All right, we have put in the inserts throughout most of these little side pieces, and we've put in the cockpit hatch. You can see it does have a little bit of a hinge, so be careful not to glue the clear part in. And then you get little opening action. Now this is the part where the fit is a bit of a challenge. Joining these two halves, you can see you do have to clip off the locator pins and then try and get things to match up. You can see we're probably going to squeeze the sphere together and get that glued in place, and then try and just make sure these side braces line up. You can see pretty easy to end up misaligned, but hopefully we'll be able to get it to glue in place properly. Well, I've glued the top and the bottom together, and you can see that we do have some gaps. So over here you can see this gap where the insert meets the bottom half, and over on this side you can see definitely a very big visible gap where the insert meets the bottom on this side as well. So we're gonna have to take some putty to that, and then we'll probably just have to use a file to make this line up a little bit better. And over here, probably file this side down to even that up. We could even kind of take the file here just to clean things up and make sure that we have a good look at the end. All right, I have put a lot of putty in those gaps, tried to clean up some of the edges. Now it's time to put on some add-on pieces to add a little bit of detail. So you can see a little thruster that goes on the back, making a little box out of these sections. And that's done with this little thruster piece and this cap to the box. This little piece gets put on right about here. This plate will fit in right there. And this will be a cap for the very back of the TIE Fighter. And we have all of those same parts down here on the bottom. And on the bottom, we will also have the bottom cap for the cockpit area. The wings of the TIE Fighter are just 3 pieces. The wing itself, this inlay to provide a lot of the machinery and panels. And then on the outside, we have this piece. And this piece is a new and improved version. I missed that on my unboxing video, but this has definitely been updated for this edition of the kit. Well, I've gone ahead and masked off the top of the canopy. I've just kind of blocked off this area so we won't get any paint inside the cockpit. And I airbrushed the panels on the wings black, and I've taped those off, and now we're going to do everything else in a very light blue gray color. With the base coats on, I painted this canopy cover silver. I'm not doing the clear insert, so I just painted the cover silver, glued it on. I also added these clear parts down here and painted the tips red. And of course, I did a panel line wash. The Star Wars universe is a lived-in universe, so you will have a little bit of dirt and a little bit of grime. No paint chipping on an Imperial fighter like Darth Vader's tie, but I really felt it needed a little bit of panel lines just to break up the big blue surfaces. Now I've gone ahead and cleaned the paint off the gluing surfaces. I had this gluing surface masked off, so there was never any paint on that one. I'm going to be using the included dome base, so I'm not putting the little cover on the bottom, but I am going to put it on the stand. And now all that will be left will just be to add a generous amount of glue to those gluing surfaces and put the wings on the TIE Fighter. All right, just a few odds and ends as I wrap up. You do get landing gear for the ship. Originally, it did not have a base, so you would use landing gear to display it. These no longer fit on the ship as they've removed where they would originally attach to the ship, but they are still included. I guess you could still use them. You just have to drill some of your own holes. And if you don't want to use the dome base, there is this cap to cover the hole that the stand fits into. I didn't use the clear piece for the front of the canopy, but it is included. And the kit comes with a little plaque with raised Star Wars letters that can be glued onto the dome base. So that's my completed build of the authentic Darth Vader TIE Fighter by MPC, a very classic kit with some very nice new upgrades. Once again, the top hatch, the bottom hatch, the detailing on these outside of the wings, and of course the Darth Vader figure are all new parts. All right, let's see if we can get a look at Darth Vader. Let me add a little bit of light. So I guess my main thought is this is just a very impressive scale. This is a big model. If we kind of compare it to the 1/72nd scale ship, this one just absolutely dwarfs it. It's big, it's imposing, it's going to look really good on a shelf. I'm not sure what exactly to pair it with because it is so big. I suppose I can put it on the shelf with this. This is a 1/48th scale X-Wing and probably one of my favorite builds of all time. Now, still not in scale to each other. The X-Wing should be bigger if these two were in scale, but I think those two could look pretty good on a shelf. Another good choice for the shelf might be Boba Fett Starfighter, the Slave One. They're both roughly the same size, so they'll go on a shelf well. Once again, drastically out of scale. If you wanted these two to be in scale, you would do one of the little TIE Fighters. So I love the size. I love the updated details. I love just the heft of the ship. I love the recessed panel line, so we could finally do a nice panel line wash. I love the new Darth Vader. And overall, I think it's a good hero or villain ship to have on display. The things I didn't like is I didn't like just some of the things that have developed with the age of the kit. You know, taking things off the sprue, just the way things were done back then. The sprue's connected right here on some really forward-facing places. They did not come off easily, and I'm not very good at using putty to build corners back up, so you can kind of see where things came off the sprue. I didn't like the gaps that you can have to deal with. I think this is the first of the Star Wars kits where I felt putty was a need more than just kind of something nice. I felt that the putty was absolutely needed for these gaps. And this might sound a little silly, but I've been having a lot of fun on so many of these Star Wars builds because you get to do a ton of chipping and weathering and really beating them up. And you don't get to do that with a ship piloted by Darth Vader. It's going to be a well-maintained ship. So I think I had a little more fun getting to do the weathering on the Boba Fett Starfighter and on the AT-AT, even on the B-Wing. This is a little bit more of a basic paint job. The one detail that even with all these revisions did not make it onto the kit is the panel lines around the very front of the sphere. So you can kind of see we've got some kind of very flat surfaces here. If you were really good at scribing lines and have fun adding things like scribed lines, you could add those to the front of the ship. Even with some of the challenges inherent in an old vintage model kit like this, I think this is a really welcome addition to the Star Wars lineup for MPC and Round 2. I love the updates they've done to the model kit, and I think it's just good to have a good, imposing villain ship as part of your collection. Hopefully that gives you guys a good idea of what's in this kit, what the challenges are, what the fun about it will be, and hopefully gives you guys some good ideas for your own builds. Thank you guys for watching this video. Thank you for following the builds and the channel, and hopefully we'll be back soon.